is just too good. Live from the banks of WPPJ radio station on the banks of the Mon, this is 3PT. My name is Nick Berlansky, and I'm here with Nicholas J. Horwat. How are you doing today, Horwat?
Good, and it's just me.
It is just you because we do have an injury to report. Jordan Slobodinsky, our other counterpart, is day-to-day with an upper body injury. We wish all the best to Jordan and hope he feels better so he can join us next week on episode 4 of 3PT.
What did he say was hurting? His ear?
Yeah, I think it was his ear. So if he's listening to this, which we know he's not, it's probably hurting his ear, so he should probably not listen to this.
It's whatever. It's his choice, not ours. He probably just didn't want to do it.
I can honestly see that. But he did show up to class yesterday like he said he was going to. So
that's good because the class he skipped last week was canceled this week.
Yeah, no, that's not a good
why I'm
look.
down here and what I slept in.
Yeah, you're in Beatles pajama bottoms and back-to-back champions with Malkin and Crosby shirt, and I'm really feeling your outfit today. You did a good job.
Yes, but okay, let me yell into the microphone again.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to talk Ice Ducks for yet another week.
You need to stop using that term of the Ice Ducks. It's not catching on. Nobody wants to hear it. But we are here to talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are starting their season in just 2 days. We are 2 days away from the start of the NHL season. Actually, 1 day away from the start of the actual NHL season.
Washington
2 away from the Penguins.
Washington gets to raise their banner tomorrow, which is kind of cool.
I'm going to watch it, but I'm going to be very sad. I had never wanted to see that.
So for the second year in a row, I've noticed the banner raising is not the first thing of the NHL season.
Nope, it's going to be Maple Leafs and Canadiens at 7, and then that game at 7:30.
That is really not smart, I think.
No, it's a horrible idea.
But to each is their own, because I know that's what happened last year with us, too. And we played St. Louis.
Which made no sense.
Yeah.
And they're playing Boston, which makes some sense.
Yeah.
But they didn't play Boston at all last year in the playoffs. I honestly would have rather the Penguins played the Capitals. I feel like that would have meant a lot more.
That's right, because we played the Capitals 2 years ago in the banner raising.
Exactly. So I think that would have been the smart move by the NHL, but of course they declined to do that. But we are here to talk about the Penguins, not the Capitals. And the first topic for discussion is kind of a what-if scenario. And I put this to you earlier today. The Penguins will win this year's Stanley Cup if
they make the playoffs and win 16 playoff games. Told you I was going to say it.
That was the most sarcastic freaking answer. You told me you were going to say that. I was like, is that really all you came up with? And you said no, thankfully. So, but yeah, of course, they'll need to make the playoffs and win 16 games in the playoffs to win the Stanley Cup. Thank you, Captain Obvious. But in my opinion, the biggest thing for the Penguins this year, if they want to win the Stanley Cup, Chris Letang has to perform. Chris Letang struggled last year. He had really bad numbers in the playoffs. He needs to perform at least half as good as he did in, I think, 2015, 2016, which was the last season that he had that was actually really good. I think he needs to perform at least to like 75% of what he did that year, because I know he's probably not going to do as good as he did that year, which I have the numbers here. I can't even see it because my laptop's so far away. I'm not used to the middle seat. 2015-16, he played 71 games, 16 goals, 67 points, and was a +9 rating. The rating, the plus-minus rating to me is the biggest thing for him because he finished with a -9 last year. And I feel like that's better than what it was throughout most of the season. He really did not play well. He was beat several times. He turned the puck over in the defensive zone almost every game from what I can recollect. And I was really hard on him last year. I'm not going to be hard on him to start this year, but I think if he plays better and if he can improve to the point of where he was around in 2015-16, I think that is going to be the biggest factor for the Penguins going forward trying to win this third cup in 4 years.
That's similar to what I came up with. Like you said, Letang has to bounce back. I said the whole team kind of has to bounce back because, I mean, we had a very good first round in the playoffs. But when it came to the second round, it looked like we had a chance, but you could just tell from like game 2 on, it was like, this just isn't going to happen, I think. Like
From game 2 on of the Capital series?
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
it was.
You just had this feel. It was just like it just doesn't feel like it's gonna happen. Like we still won games. It was just like it just didn't have the same.
It felt like pulling teeth trying to get a victory over the Capitals, and it felt like that series did go 6 games astonishingly, even though it felt like we were outplayed for the vast majority of the time during that series.
What kept me confident through that was that we were outplayed every game against the Capitals the year before,
and the year before that,
and still managed to pull it off.
That's true. You know what I think the biggest problem was last year? And I said it in the article that I posted about 2 hours ago. The biggest problem for the Penguins last year in the playoffs was the bottom 6. it couldn't produce at all.
Yeah. That's always what got it done for us before, especially with in the 16 year was the HBK line.
Yep, Bonino and Hagelin
and Kessel, which rocked which is a third line. Year after that, it was just everyone was just doing everything.
Yeah, the year after that, you even had Connor Sherry scoring a lot of points. I'm glad I don't have to make that mistake anymore. But we had bottom sixes in the years that we won the cup. And you want to know the biggest player in that bottom sixes that came back? Matt Cullen.
Matt Cullen. Yeah, it's like I said in the first week, it's a huge re-signing for us. The guy that needs I feel like come through this year is not only Letang, but I mean I get he only played half the season here, but Brassard. Derek Brassard was the signing of...
Are you looking at my cheat sheet over here?
No, I'm looking at mine.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, Derek Brassard is the one I had, too. Why do you think so?
I get he only had half of a season to kind of show himself here, but he was the signing of the trade deadline.
He was the big deal.
Supposedly.
He was the guy everybody was going for.
Oh, my God. It just started pouring down rain.
No,
here.
It's been pouring. I just chose to ignore it.
Okay, well, I just noticed it, and I heard a loud clap of thunder, so I had to look. But Derek Brassard is remember when we signed Hossa, we got the name of the trade deadline, and then he was able to perform right away for the most part. He was able to come in and be a good supporter for Crosby. I mean, admittedly, lost in the finals. He went off and did his thing.
And lost in the finals again the next year with the Red Wings.
But Brassard came in, and he got hurt at one point too, didn't he?
Not at one point. He got hurt, I think it was just a couple games into his Penguins tenure, and he was never really healed, even throughout the postseason. And apparently it was a very major injury. I don't think they ever stated what his injury was.
Okay.
But it was a major injury, and you could tell that he wasn't playing full strength. And hopefully with the full offseason to rest and try to rehabilitate that injury, he's ready to go. And like you said, that's probably going to be the biggest factor in them trying to win the cup again this year. So the Penguins will win the cup if, so far we've established Letang needs to have a good season, Brassard needs to have a good season, and you said just everybody overall
everyone
needs to just kind of improve.
Back.
But you see, I don't agree with that. Crosby had a very, very good season, and obviously in the playoffs he had a very, very good playoffs.
Imagine Crosby improving, though.
Listen, he's consistently been one of the top 2 or 3 players in the league for about 10 seasons now, if not more. I'm not really going to hammer on him to try to improve.
Hey, he himself wants to improve. So
he always wants to improve, but every NHL player you're going to ask is always going to want to improve, unless it's like Alex Ovechkin, who's like, I am already the best.
That's fair.
And now he has a cup, so he can say that kind of. But you look at Gensel, I think you look at the way Kessel played. Kessel had 93 points in the regular season. That's a career high last year. I think if he improves on that, obviously that's amazing. But if he doesn't, if he scores 80 points, 85 points, is that really looked at as something that's going to be a detriment to the Penguins? Like it's going to really pull back the Penguins that much if he scores about 10 or 15 less points?
No, I wouldn't say so. Especially if we have guys that can come in and produce if other guys aren't. Like, who did I have here? Like, if Colin can come back and continue producing the way he did in the postseason for us before, that would be great. Brassard obviously picking his game up and going back to what he was in Ottawa is another great help. And
I think the biggest thing with Brassard is when we got him, even when he wasn't scoring in the regular season, we kept hammering the fact that he's a playoff performer. We were expecting the playoffs to come around, and we were expecting him to light fire and just go off, and he didn't. In 4 of his 6 postseasons played, including the one last year, he has scored, I think I have here, 10-plus points in 4 of 6 postseasons. That's pretty good for a player that played on the Rangers, a player that played on the Senators especially, who don't really let your goal scorers score goals. They kind of hold back. Obviously, we've already talked a lot about their defense in earlier episodes. And then now he's playing for the Penguins, who I think if he really gets his groove and really gets a line and 2 line mates and 2 wingers that he can really build a chemistry with, I think that third line is going to be really hard to stop, and I think he'll have a really good season. I could see him scoring probably 60-plus points if he can find consistent line mates.
You want to know who else needs a bounce-back season, I'd say? Justin Schultz. From the goal scorer he was...
Yeah, but I mean,
not necessarily a goal scorer, but he only had 4 goals last year.
He was also injured a lot last year. I believe. How many games did he play? You should probably be able to see it from right there.
Yeah, I was on playoffs.
Imagine. Oh, you're on playoffs?
I was, but
he
had
played a couple games in the playoffs.
63 games played.
So he missed 19, which is a pretty big chunk of an NHL season.
No, yeah, I get
But
that.
at the same
like,
time, 4 goals, I mean, you don't expect him to score more than 15, do you?
well, I mean, not necessarily, but just 4. And whenever he was anchoring the power play for a while, I'm not saying I'm expecting more. I'm saying, like, it's almost, like, certain there should be a little more there. Granted, as he only had 1 goal the year before, but still, he performed in the playoffs and was the anchor for the playoffs when
In
Letang
2017.
was out. Yeah.
Yeah, it was who was it? Him and Hainsey, I'm pretty sure was a line. I'm pretty sure that was or was it Hainsey and Doolin? I don't know. It's not that neither here nor there. But I could see, you know what? Schultz is a big thing. Schultz gets into a lot of trouble because of how much he I'm losing the word. How much he pinches and how sometimes he struggles when he pinches is because he comes in too early and takes a bad angle. Somebody gets around him, it's an odd man rush. We saw it too many times last season. We saw way too many odd man rushes last season, leaving Matt Murray out to dry. And his numbers were down too, but really what kind of defense did we put in front of him through the majority of the season? We expected Letang to come back and be Christopher Letang, the guy that we all wanted to give a Norris Trophy to in 5 or 6 years ago, and instead he ended up probably being our 3rd or 4th best defenseman. We didn't expect Mata to play as I think he played pretty steady in front of him, but it's still Olli Mata, and he still makes those Mata mistakes, which he just absolutely looks horrible. And he also still doesn't have the foot speed that I would really want him to have to be playing in that top 4 kind of defensive position. Another thing I was going to bring up about Brassard, we said he was a big playoff scorer. Last year, do you want to know how many points he scored in our 12 playoff games?
How many?
He had 1. Oh, wow, the microphone was really close. He had 1 goal, 3 assists.
In 12 games, you said?
In 12 games in the playoffs last year.
Now, that's a number.
Yeah, no, that's a bad number.
Yeah.
He ended up getting pushed down to the 4th line by the end of the Capital Series, which I can see why if he's hurt.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't really do anything when you're put on a 4th line with Zach. It wasn't Zach Aston Reese by the end of that series.
No.
I can't think of. It was Kuhnackel, and it was I can't remember his other line mate, but it doesn't matter because Simone was on the 1st line.
But because it's like we got through the first round because Crosby and Gensel decided just to go off and just toy with the Flyers.
And I don't think the Flyers were really ready for the playoffs last year.
No, the Flyers never are. But, I mean, Crosby and Gensel had a huge part in the reason why we got out of the first round, that it almost kind of just overshadows everything else everyone else did, to the point of I didn't realize he only had 4 points. I thought he had, like, at least 4 or 5 or 6 or something like that.
Nope, 4 points. Yeah, that was – the whole bottom 6 really didn't contribute at all in the goal-scoring category, because if you think about that, you know who else scored our goals? Basically just Kessel and Malkin. I think Hagelin had 1. Rust had a couple, or 1 or a couple, I think. But nobody else really scored goals. Letang had, 3?
Letang had 3, yeah.
Okay. So it's not like it was really top-heavy in the scoring, and anybody who watched the series, obviously, that's a very easy thing to deduct if you watched any of those games, because everybody who scored was just Gensel and Crosby. And that's why I truly believe Gensel and Crosby should stay on the same line as long as they can this year.
Oh, 100%.
I think we have the depth, especially now with adding Cullen and adding Grant. I think we have the depth. If somebody gets hurt below them, don't send one of those guys down to try to even out the lines, because it's not going to do anything. All you're going to do is handcuff Crosby and handcuff Gensel, who, if they play on the same line, I could see Crosby scoring 100-plus points with them on his line, as long as they have Hornqvist on the right side, or maybe even Sprong. And I can see Gensel scoring 70-plus. That might be a little,
Boy, oh boy.
That's a lot of points, but I could see with Crosby and Hornqvist or Sprong, do you disagree that you couldn't see him scoring 70?
Crosby does have that kind of like Mario Lemieux-esque and Wayne Gretzky-esque, where it's like if you just put a guy on a line with them, they're going to become a big,
like he did with Yager and Francis.
Or Rob Brown.
Or
made Rob Brown a 50-goal scorer. Like, it's you throw anyone on a line with Crosby, and something's going to produce. Something's going to happen there.
Who was his line mates last year? You see Sprong spent time up there. Simone spent time up there. Zach Aston Reese spent time up there. Zach Aston Reese is not more than a 3rd liner.
And he made all those guys look good.
And they all looked like they could produce for themselves, when realistically it was just Crosby doing magic and giving them pucks in open areas, and they had to make one move and they scored. They didn't score too much, though, because I think I took 8 of our bottom 6 players, and they had a combined minus 26 rating and only combined for, like, 33 goals? Or points. Sorry, 33 points.
Probably.
Not
We
goals.
didn't.
But that included I included Ryan Reeves and JSD.
Ryan Reeves. So that's all season last year you're going for?
Yeah, I was going for most of the players. I didn't use the two
Okay.
guys on the bottom, which it was I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Scott Wilson.
Probably because just guys that just didn't play games.
Yeah, they played like one game, so I didn't really want to. It was Scott Wilson and Josh Archibald.
Oh yeah. Even after that, it's like we still had Josh Joris played a couple games.
I included him. He was not. The problem being the bottom 6 lines allowed too many goals without being able to produce anything.
Oh my God, do you remember Greg McKegg?
Yes, I do remember Greg McKegg, and I remember that Jordan, on the IR right now, by the way, Jordan Slobodinsky, if you missed the beginning of our show, Jordan loved Greg McKegg, not as much, but pretty much almost as much as he loves Casey DeSmith.
I forgot about
Oh,
Greg
by the way,
McKegg.
I need to call him out, by the way. He traded Wayne Simmons for Casey DeSmith in our fantasy league.
How about him texting us thinking we would call him out for taking Giroux?
Yeah, no, he was like, what? Aren't you going to he wanted to explain why he took Claude Giroux, and I was like, Claude Giroux scores a lot of points,
Yeah,
dude.
so
You're fine.
That was a good choice. I took Tom Wilson. Like,
Yeah, no, that was a bad idea. He's going to be suspended
yeah.
for a lot of games.
I mean, when you count hits, that's why I picked Bufflin as my first defenseman and Tom Wilson.
That's why I picked Eric Johnson of the Colorado Avalanche.
That was a good choice. I saw that.
Yes,
But
thank you.
Our fantasy league aside, that I'm probably going to lose now that Tom Wilson's going to be out for a couple games.
Hopefully like 30.
Yeah.
Never going to happen, but hopefully like 30.
Honestly, he should be out. But
so, of all the things we've said, what do you think is the number one thing? The Penguins will win the Stanley Cup if?
just everyone just bounces back and has a phenomenal season, especially guys like you said, Letang. I said Brassard. And let's throw another name in there just because. Sprong. Sprong has to bounce back, obviously.
Well, yeah, we talked about that last week. Sprong needs to have a good season or else he's not going to be playing on the Penguins next year. I'm sorry. They're not going to keep him around if he can't do anything.
No.
Oh, I'm not saying I'm sorry to you because
okay.
I don't care about your feelings. But
Oh.
Sprong, and you saw he got injured, didn't play in the last preseason game, which was huge for him because now he's probably not going to be in the lineup come Thursday. He luckily made the cut, and luckily they kept him up, but I think that's just for saying we can't have you wasting away in the AHL this year. You need to be in the NHL level, so you need to stay up here and you need to get your stuff together.
Yeah.
But he was not going to make the lineup on Thursday. If he would have done literally anything in the preseason, he would have been in the lineup on Thursday. He did absolutely nothing and lost his spot to Dominic Simone. We'll talk about the final roster cuts after the break, but Sprong needs to have a good season.
Yeah.
If he has a bad season, I can still see the Penguins winning the cup.
Oh, yeah, I mean.
Because they'll trade him.
Yeah.
For, I don't know,
Like late round pick.
Clint Hurdle's gum.
Mike Tomlin's headset.
Scott, I don't know. We're not going to keep doing this. We're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, we'll give you some of the predictions that we have for the Pittsburgh Penguins and their players. Come on back to 3PT right after the break.
It's the final countdown.
Welcome back to 3PT on WPPJ. You can listen on WPPJ wherever you are at WPPJradio.com or streaming on the TuneIn app. We are back talking some Penguins hockey. How you doing, Horwat?
Stop reading the pages.
Listen, it's up there. I'm going to use it.
I guess Alex would like that.
Alex would like that. Shout out to Alex Popacek, our general manager. But we are going to talk about a little bit of Penguins predictions. The first thing we need to discuss, who will have a breakout season for the Pittsburgh Penguins?
So now, when you say breakout, like, you mean like he's a new guy altogether, or?
No, just who's going to have a breakout season for the Penguins and do better and really just kind of stand alone, not stand alone, but stand out as somebody who, last year I believe it was, like, even though Phil Kessel was always really good for the Penguins, last year scoring 93 goals, almost leading the team in points, I think that was something that really had him break out as an elite point scorer in the league and kind of into the top tier. He's always been in the top 2 tiers. But I think that's something that put him into the elite category.
No, yeah, you're right. Okay, so if you're just talking about people who need to have a good year, then I'm going to continue with what I was talking about earlier and saying Derek Brassard. But if I can build on that and throw another name at you. Let me glance. Like I said, Derek Brassard, Riley Sheehan can have another good year. Obviously, he can do it.
Yeah, well, he's not going to have to worry about taking too many faceoffs if he has Matt Cullen. It looks like it's going to be Sheehan and Cullen on that fourth line, just kind of interchanging. This yesterday morning, they had Cullen on the left wing and Sheehan at center, but during the preseason, they've also had Cullen at center and Sheehan at left wing, so it looks like they're just going to be interchanging on the fourth line, which is fine by me. And it also looks like they're going to get Dominic Simone as a right winger to start the season.
Okay. And so another name I would say is just Jack Johnson, because a lot of people weren't happy about the pickup at first because they said, he did, quote unquote terrible in Columbus his last year. But he's still a good stay-at-home defenseman. He does what he needs to do. He's going to be a penalty killer and perform, and he's a friend of Crosby, so we know that's a good thing. Well,
yeah, a friend of Crosby is always a really good thing. I'm not sure anybody who's Crosby hates other than maybe like Sean Couturier, but no, I think I agree with you. Jack Johnson hopefully will have a good season. I don't know. From what I've seen, every time we've played the Blue Jackets when Jack Johnson was there, I kind of just looked at it as Jack Johnson's a step slower, so Crosby's going to beat him in one-on-ones. I always knew that he had physicality, so hopefully he brings that over because that's something the Penguins defense severely lacks usually is physicality. They got a little bit back with Jamie Oleksiak, but they really don't have anybody else that's going to be physical unless Juuso Riikola decides to strap him on and take people out.
I also feel like Jack Johnson, every time he played against us, I feel like he always managed to score a goal. I don't know how. It's just what it seemed.
It's because he's friends with Sidney Crosby, don't you know?
When you're on the same ice as him, you get powers, man. You get magical powers.
Yeah,
but I just feel like obviously he can produce in some sort of way other than defensively.
Yeah, no, it's one of the things that Rutherford said about him when he came in. We like him because he's a big guy. He's going to force some hits, and he's going to force people to be off the puck. That's all you have to do. You really don't even need to make contact. Just go after somebody, and you're going to separate puck from stick. That's what you have to do as a defenseman.
Yeah.
And he does that almost better than anybody, I think, on the Penguins roster right now defensively, because a lot of the Penguins' defense like to stick check and don't necessarily like to go after the body. We saw Riikola likes to do it. He did it in the preseason. We'll see if that, carries over.
They just played too
we
much
know
NHL
Alexia
19.
Too much NHL, what, 19?
18, 19, where it's
18.
nothing but poke checks online.
I mean, 17, 18, 19, they're all the same game.
I'm not going to get into that.
No? Okay. I think the guy who's going to have a breakout season for the Penguins is Derek Brassard.
No, yeah.
You saw how good he could be in New York. He was kind of, I don't want to say constrained, but he was kind of constrained in Ottawa because he had to play that defensive system, and they really focused on the defense back up in there in Ottawa with Guy Boucher's system. So now being able to be on the Penguins, where we foster offensive zone pressure, scoring goals. We want to light the lamp 7 times, even if it means giving up 6 goals. That's apparently our motto. I don't like it, but it's effective. So seeing him on a full season with full health with the Penguins, and seeing him with somebody, maybe Kessel comes down to the third line at some points this season. He plays with Rust, who in the offensive zone can really create space, and he's playing with somebody like who else do I have here? I really can't see my computer.
Well, we got guys like Hornqvist could drop down if need be.
Exactly. Because if Sprong plays on that third line with Brassard, and Rust finds space for Sprong and Brassard, that's gonna be a dangerous line. Or if Sprong goes up to the first line, like we saw last year, then Hornqvist goes down to the third line. I don't see Hornqvist playing with Malkin too often this year.
Oh, not at all. Because I don't think, from what I can remember, they don't play too much together already.
No.
They're just, it's like Malkin always, like I said last week, he just has particular guys he likes playing. It seems like he likes playing with and doesn't like playing with.
Yeah, he really likes playing with Kessel, and he really likes playing with Hagelin, which is the reason Hagelin's probably still here, which I thank you for that, Gino. I think Hagelin will do pretty good this year. He's not going to score 10 goals, I don't think. Maybe 10.
Maybe 10?
No more than 15.
I'll give him 15.
Okay, well.
Especially if he is playing on a line with Malkin and Kessel. And Kessel, we learned last year, can feed the puck.
Yeah, and so can Malkin. I'm not sure why we would even bring that up, but at the same time, I still think, like we said, Brassard, I think, is the breakout star for the Penguins. He has to be.
Has to be, yeah.
Because you look at everybody else, you kind of know what they're going to bring to the table. You know Rust is going to put up probably around 15 goals, going to have a lot more assists. You know Hagelin's going to put up lower goal numbers but play on the penalty kill. You know that Sheehan is not really going to put up points. You know Crosby's going to put up points. You know Malkin's going to put up points. You know Kessel's going to put up points. You know Gensel is going to put up points. You know Hornqvist is going to put up points for that matter.
Sneaky going to put up points.
You know who I think is going to sneaky put up points this year? Matt Cullen. We've talked about him a lot today. I said earlier during the preseason, and I might have been getting a little ahead of myself, I said he's going to have a 20-goal season. He's had one 20-goal season in his very, very long career.
Okay.
So I might have been putting the cart before the horse a little bit because I saw 3 preseason goals and I saw how well he played against the Columbus Blue Jackets created team.
Yeah, and the backup.
And the third.
Korpisalo.
Yeah, it wasn't Korpisalo. I'm pretty sure it was Korpisalo.
Korpisalo.
So I'll concede that was a little premature in saying 20, but I can see 10. I can see between 15 and 20.
100%, I would say that too.
Especially if him and Sheehan can get a groove going. I think that can definitely be a 15-20 goal season for Dad Cullen.
He'll definitely be the highest scoring 42-year-old in the league.
Is he the only 42-year in the league?
Probably.
Other than maybe like Cam Ward, who's going to score 1 goal for the Chicago Blackhawks.
Anyway.
Every goal in the NHL is going to get a goal before Marc-Andre Fleury. I'm just putting that out there.
That's sad, man. Anyway, your next option. So we're sticking with Brassard, obviously, as the biggest breakout star.
Yeah, I think we both agree that he's going to have the most telling season that we're saying, whoa, look at this guy. Not that we didn't know he had the capabilities of doing it, but for the first time seeing him do it in a Penguins jersey, I think that's something that we both agree is going to happen during the 2018-19 season.
Yeah. And your next one was who's going to have the worst season?
Yeah, who's going to have a really bad season for the Penguins that really is in position to have a decent season, or not even have a decent season, but somebody that is on the roster right now that you just don't think has anything to really give to this team and won't succeed on this team this year. As much as we hate to cast aspersions on our team, who do you think that would be?
Okay, well here I'm going to answer for Jordan first, and I'm going to say Olli Maatta for Jordan.
I think he would say thank you. I know he's not listening.
No, there's no way.
No, he would say thank you, boy.
Yes. But I'm going to say when it comes to worst season, I'm going to say Olli Maatta too. I'm going to say this is the season he finally gets traded too.
Really?
Yes, because we are paying this man.
I did not see that coming.
We are paying this man so much money, first of all, for okay defense, no offense anymore. And
well, he wasn't too bad on offense last year. I thought he had a really good season last year.
I just feel like you can get a great trade out of him, I think. Especially with Ricola coming up now. That considering he survived another roster cut.
He didn't survive just another roster cut. He's on the roster.
Exactly.
He made the team.
8 defensemen, man. That's
weird. A cap in that. Yeah. The Pittsburgh Penguins made that last cut, and they're only going with the one extra forward in Derek Grant, which is weird because they also sent down Zach Aston-Reese. We knew they were going to send down Zach Trotman, but they kept up both Ruhwedel and Ricola, who, unless Dumoulin gets healthy, is probably going to make the start on Thursday. But really, you think Olli Maatta?
I mean, I feel like you can not only open up cap space.
They need to get if they're going to do that, they need to get an NHL defenseman back. Do you really think they're going to get a decent NHL defenseman that's better than Maatta back for Olli Maatta?
No, but I'm not expecting to get anything back from it. I expect that trade to be cap relief, especially if Ricola plays well.
Okay, going down the stretch then. Okay, if Ricola plays well, then who do you have as your 7th defenseman? Do you have Ruhwedel again?
Yup. I said last week I thought Ruhwedel was going to be 7.
I don't.
Ha-ha!
Ruhwedel didn't play poorly last year, but him as an 8 just makes me so much more comfortable with Ricola as a 7, or him as a 7 and Ricola as an 8. I don't want one of them in the lineup and the other one is 7. I like Maatta in the lineup. So with that being said, my guy that I think is going to have the worst season is going to be Dominic Simone. I really don't think he's going to do anything this year. He's going to be on the 4th line. No.
He's up?
Yes. He's going to be on the 4th line.
What's he doing up here?
I told you, they sent down Zach Aston-Reese and kept up Dominic Simone, which I thought was an absolutely horrid decision.
Yeah, I'd say.
I don't agree with it at all, just because Dominic Simone didn't produce offensively, and he played several games with Crosby last year. He played 33 games for the Pittsburgh Penguins last year, almost half the season, and he only scored, let me look it up real quick.
Okay. You look it up.
4 goals, 8 assists. in 33 games. He played on the first line for the majority of those games, and he with Crosby and Gensel and Hornqvist, and he put up 12 points.
Now you see,
You say Mata's bad offensively.
okay. I wasn't thinking of guys that are going to get sent to the minors at some point. I'm thinking of guys that are going to be up here all year. I mean, obviously, I'm going to.
Oh, okay. Was I not clear on that?
No, I mean, it makes sense to say that too. Like, if I guess I was just thinking of guys that are going to stay up here who are going to have a bad season, not like, oh, this guy's having a bad season. All right, just send him down because we can do that.
Yeah.
So
other than that, I can see Rust having a drop off if you
I was
want.
gonna say, so
If you want to say
yeah.
if you want to say a player that'll be up for the majority of the season, whether they are bad or not, that might have a drop off season, I'm going to say it's Rust. I don't think he's going to have a bad season, but he
No.
just got his big contract.
Yeah.
Normally, players do not perform better once they get the big contract. I don't know why.
His big boy contract, actually, I like it now that I'm looking at it.
It's a very team friendly contract, but
Yeah.
it's still a big boy contract for Brian Rust.
yeah.
Because you look at who else is on our team, and you look at how much we're paying everybody else. I think he knew to stay on this team, he's going to have to take a
Cut.
we'll,
Not a
we'll,
cut,
we'll
but
say
he's-
not big boy contract, but a little big boy contract.
No, that's a big boy contract.
Well, yeah, but a team friendly one, which some people don't or choose not to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about this team too. I've noticed is that, the guys like Kane and Taves, they'll be out there taking their $10 million. McDavid with his $12 million, Carey Price $12 million contract, and that's sinking their teams.
Yeah, it's not helping their teams at all.
It's also driving the league into another lockout.
I was
but-
listening to the Steve Dangle podcast, which podcast we both listen to,
Shout out.
and they were saying the Penguins are the epitome of what you want to do after you win a Stanley Cup, and not the Blackhawks. Why? Because Crosby and Malkin got paid real early, and they did. They got their big contracts, and then they ran out, and then they signed a team-friendly one, and now they're winning cups.
Now,
Taves and Kane won their Stanley Cups on small contracts, then got paid, which kind of ruined their chances of winning cups in the future.
Now, I'll say
It makes sense.
When we signed Crosby and Malkin, the cap space was different back then, and they did sign like Crosby.
were
When Crosby
large
signed
contracts.
his big, he signed. I think he at the time signed one of the biggest the NHL's ever seen. But since then, the cap has expanded.
Yeah, Connor McDavid's
and-
getting what, $12 million
yeah
a year,
He himself is like,
and Crosby's getting 8.7.
oh, I remember that one.
Well, this is the easiest contract I ever remember.
McDavid's getting like what? Like what's the cap space? Like how much?
I
It's
don't.
80
I
mil.
don't. It's 80 mil this year.
Yeah, so
Okay,
he's
I don't
getting
pay as
about.
much attention to cap space as you do.
So he's getting what, like 10% of their entire cap space,
Probably,
like around
yeah.
there.
Him and then Draisaitl's getting another big chunk.
That's sinking the team doing that. Not saying like don't go out and get your money, but
And you look at their team, and you can see where it's sinking them.
yeah,
They have a bunch of young players, which is fine, but they have a bunch of young players that they're going to need to resign, and they're not going to be able to. So they're going to have to bring up more young players that are unproven, and that's not going to be able to bode well once you get to the playoffs,
and that doesn't help. They have like
or trying to get to the playoffs.
and then there's the mid-range contracts. Like Lucic is getting $6 million, Nugent Hopkins is getting $6 million. Like it's those ones too that are
I
just
see
adding
RNH
to
getting
it.
traded this year.
He should have been traded a while ago.
Yeah, I think this year's like straw that breaks the camel's back, and he's gone.
Yeah, but
So, go ahead.
it's just like it's amazing. Like I'm not saying don't go out and get your money, because if someone's gonna pay you, go, by all means, go take your money.
Yeah,
But
you've seen that around the league a lot.
yeah, but if it's like money's guaranteed, a cup isn't. That's one thing that a lot of guys do look at, which I can understand. But at the same time, thank God we have guys who want to win like Crosby.
Exactly. There's
Like-
guys that he knows he has his money. He doesn't really. I mean, he needs his money obviously, but he doesn't need that big contract anymore.
Sorry,
And
he's
I think
He's also getting his Tim Hortons money, so
Oh yeah, that Tim Hortons money. It's real good for him. Back up in Nova Scotia, they love it. All that Tim Hortons. So the last thing we're going to talk about when basically preseason Penguins superlatives. I'm not sure why we didn't title it that. But the last one we're going to talk about is unsung hero. Who do you think the Penguins' unsung hero? Somebody who's gonna perform well, but still nobody's going to give them credit. I initially had Matt Cullen, but I have a different answer. I'll let you answer first.
okay, well, I initially had Matt Cullen, and I'm keeping Matt Cullen.
Okay, go ahead.
Because like I said, he's always been the unsung hero. I feel like the fourth line guy that's just been grinding out, getting it done, and he's old.
And he's we don't have to keep bringing up that he's old.
Yeah, we do.
Oh.
It's like the NFL and James Conner's cancer surviving.
That's
Gotta
annoying.
keep bringing it up every week.
Yeah, it's so Just because the history of him being the unsung hero, you think he's going to be the unsung hero again?
Him or Hornquist, because year after year, Hornquist puts up a large amount of points and is never like the big name to be talked about.
Yeah, that's very true. I'm going to go with something, and it's not biased, and I promise it's not biased, and I've actually looked at the stats for it, and it kind of made me think when we were talking. I'm going to say Carl Hagelin.
Okay.
Just
I was
because
going to say Riley, and I would have understood that too.
I love Riley.
We know you do.
But I'm going to say Carl Hagelin just because I think there's something about having a full off-season off that'll help him get his speed back. You saw that was something last year. His speed wasn't there anymore. And that's something because he never played that much hockey.
Oh, yeah.
2 straight cups, he never really got that deep.
Deep playoff runs all the time, yeah.
And that's going to kill his legs, especially when he was dealing with a foot injury during the second one. So he lost a lot of speed last year. He's had a full offseason to recover. He's going to play with Malkin and Kessel for probably a good portion of the season. I think he's going to be able to put a lot more pucks away. And we saw it in the preseason. If he gets a breakaway, he could be lethal.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And if he has his speed back, he's going to get more breakaways, especially with Kessel and Malkin, who we already talked about today, can dish the puck. And we saw it last year, and we're going to see it again this year. So I think Carl Hagelin's going to be the unsung hero. He could score 25 goals, and people would still be like, oh, well, Carl Hagelin should still be traded because he's $4 million. I mean, yes, he's $4 million, but you look at the way our team's structured, and that $4 million hasn't hurt us yet.
No, it hasn't. I mean, it's a lot of money to be locked up in a guy like him who, I'm going to say what you said, is only a third-line guy to a lot of standards, but it's going to be on the second this year most likely, and will probably perform better than before. So, yeah, he's going to have a great year and earn his paycheck. And maybe earn a bigger one after that.
I don't think he's going to.
Not here, but somewhere.
I'm sorry. I still don't think anybody's going to pay that man more than $4 million. Do you? Do you honestly think somebody in the NHL is going to say, yeah, you know what? You're worth 5. You're worth 4.5. You're worth 4.25.
If he has a breakout year, the dumpster fire of Ottawa will take him for 6.
No, boy. We shouldn't mention Ottawa because it's very sad what they're doing to their franchise.
It is so sad. That is Matt Duchene's team.
Speaking about trading for a piece of Clint Hurdle's gum, that's what they basically got back in the Erik Karlsson trade.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely nothing. But we are off to another commercial break, and when we come back, we will have our Stanley Cup predictions, our official Stanley Cup predictions. We were hoping that we'd have all 3 of us here, but we don't, so you'll get mine and Horwat's Stanley Cup predictions. We'll be back here on 3PT.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
And we're back here on 3PT. I'd like to formally thank Nicholas J. Horwat for the song selection every week. That's something new that we're doing this year, and I think it just ups the ante just a little bit for our show every week. So just a quick shout-out to Horwat for doing that.
Thank you. It is enjoyable looking for music that go with the show, too.
So that is it's the most wonderful time of the year, if anybody just decided not to listen to what the song just said. But it is the most wonderful time of the year. The Pittsburgh Penguins and the NHL is starting up in less than 24 hours. I'm very excited.
Yes,
I can't even speak right.
I mean, I'll be in class tomorrow night for puck drop, but I mean, I'll figure something out to watch.
I get out of work at 7, so I'll be home just in time for the start of the Capitals game, which I may or may not watch.
You gonna wake up at 10 a.m., watch the last preseason game of Edmonton and that German team?
Nope, not a chance.
That's fair.
I don't like preseason hockey. You do.
I also don't care about Edmonton.
Not many people do, unless do you like McDavid? I don't know.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I guess that's cool.
Sorry, there's West Coast games we can watch at 10 too, though, so we're good.
Well, there you go. Now, the first question we're going to ask about the league, which is still kind of Penguins related. Do the Pittsburgh Penguins win the Metropolitan Division this year? They haven't won it for 2 years. Or is it 3? We won it the first year that it was the Metropolitan Division, and ever since then it's been Washington.
Yeah, so we never have been the division leader whenever we won a cup, except for maybe the 90s, but I don't remember that. In recent history, we've never been a division leader when we won the Stanley Cup. And just running down these teams, it's going to be between us, Washington, or New Jersey, I think.
Interesting that you said New Jersey. I thought I was going to be alone on that. I think New Jersey wins the Metro this year.
Really?
Yeah. I think they put it together last year pretty well. I think they also had to deal with Corey Schneider being injured. This year, I think they could probably go with Schneider and Kincaid on a 50-50 because that's basically what they did last year, but not because of injury. If it's not because of injury, I think they can put it together. The Penguins had a really tough time playing them last year. I think they had they played pretty well against Washington as well. They just got to make a way or find a way to mop up the teams like Carolina and the teams like Philadelphia. And I think they have it this year. I think the Penguins will finish either second or third. I think they're going to battle with the Washington Capitals, like you said.
Okay. No, yeah, I could see it being any of those 3 teams. I mean, there's no chance it's going to be anyone else, really.
No, the Rangers are still in a rebuild. The Flyers are better, and I think they're going to be a lot better this year because they had a lot of young players last year. I don't think they take the top 3. Columbus, I think they took another step back, and the Islanders are the Islanders. Sorry, Dave. But the Islanders, the Islanders they kind of did a fire sale. They're kind of starting a rebuild this year, so I don't think they have really a chance of making the playoffs. The second question we want to ask, and we're going to go through the first 2 very quickly because the last one is Stanley Cup predictions, and we love doing Stanley Cup predictions.
Woo.
The next question we're going to ask is who's going to lead the league in scoring? Last year, it was Connor McDavid somehow again. The year before that, it was Connor McDavid, not somehow because he completely lit the lamp every single time. This year, who do you think is going to – do you think somebody takes it from McDavid?
I hope so. And I hope that just the fan in me is saying I hope it's like Crosby or Malkin or someone.
Wrong.
Yeah.
No, it's McDavid. It's Connor McDavid again. I'm sorry. He's going to lead the league in scoring probably for 5 straight years.
All right. And how about we just say guys that we think have the chance to at least? Because I would say Taylor Hall,
Nikita
Austin
Kucherov.
Matthews. Okay.
Austin Matthews.
I'll just kidding
you
me?
You list yours.
I'm saying like at least like Hall, Matthews, Crosby again as usual will be up there. And I'm saying Matthews because him and Tavares are gonna do something this year.
Him and Tavares aren't going to be on the same line.
Him and that team are gonna do something this year. I mean,
the top 5 teams, and there's a very big drop off after these 5 teams. The top 5 teams in the East are clearly Boston, Tampa. I'm losing my Toronto, Washington, Pittsburgh.
Boston?
Yes, Boston. You saw how good Boston played in the playoffs last year, and you see how young they are. As long as Tuukka Rask doesn't take a big regression step, they're gonna be a top team in this conference.
I just don't see when you say they're young with their youth, and I agree with that. Totally have their youthfulness, but Charlie McAvoy always sticks out to me as he's just overrated. He's
very overrated.
He's not that great,
and so is Zdeno Chara.
Yeah.
But their defense is half decent. They have somebody like Torrey Krug who can lead that defense.
He's hurt, isn't he?
For now.
But I mean,
he's not going to be hurt all year.
Yeah,
hopefully for him. I mean, nobody wants to see that. But you look at players like Jake DeBrusk, and I can't think of anybody else. David Pastrnak. I couldn't think of his name. Both of those 2 are on my fantasy team, and I can't think of their names. But if you think of those 2 leading the way, and then you also have Marchand, who always finds a way to get in the top tier in scoring somehow. You have Bergeron, who's always the best defensive forward in the league, pretty much. And then you have, like I said, Pastrnak, who's going to probably be the leading scorer, I think, on the Boston Bruins this year. They're a good team. But I still think the question was who's going to score the most points, and I still think that's going to be Connor McDavid.
He's just going to will himself to do it. I mean,
also when you play in the Pacific Division, you play teams like Calgary, you play teams like Vancouver and
Arizona.
You're not gonna. It's bad. You're gonna score a lot of points. The only thing that's bad about being in that division is you also have to play L.A., Vegas, and San Jose, who are all going to stop you from scoring. So you have 3 horrible teams and 3 really good teams when it comes to defense in that division. The bad thing is Connor McDavid's going to put up 5 points a night when he plays the horrible teams.
I mean, at least it helps he's on one of the horrible teams.
I'm telling you, they're making the playoffs again this year.
They're not going to. All right. Well, okay.
Cam Talbot had a down year last year. He's not much better than what he showed last year, but he will bounce back.
The sad part is I think last year was an up year for Cam Talbot. He's not a good goalie. He's better than Mike Smith, at least.
Yeah, that's very true.
But league leader in points, I would say, is probably sadly going to be McDavid. But guys like Matthews, Hall, Crosby, and probably Kucherov and not DeBrusk, the other one from Boston, Pastrnak, they're going to put up fights to also hold on to it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's going to be a really tight race this year. Probably a tighter race than it was last year, and it was pretty close last year.
It was really
until the very end, because the very end, Connor McDavid kept scoring, and everybody else kind of didn't.
Just let it happen.
But here's a question that I just thought of because I saw something come up on your screen. Who's going to have a better second year, Nico Hischier or Nolan Patrick?
Nico Hischier, by far.
By far.
Nolan Patrick's on the Flyers, my friend.
So is JVR. You don't think JVR's putting up 30 this year?
Oh, he's gonna get so many dirty goals. It's ridiculous.
Exactly.
I'm
but
back to not liking JVR because he's on the Flyers.
Okay, well, you have JVR, you have Giroux, you have Couturier, you have Simmons, you have Voracek, and you have Nolan Patrick,
And
who's going to be in the top six in his second year. I think Nolan Patrick has a very good year this year. I still think Nico Hischier's going to have a better year. Sorry, I'm just trying to defend the guy because you're basically sitting there saying that he's going to be absolutely horrible, and he's not.
I didn't think he put up that great of a year last year.
He didn't, but he was a rookie. Nico Hischier didn't put up a great statistical season.
Okay, but whatever.
What do you expect? Justo Ricolo to go out there, score 60 points on 57 assists, and be a plus 25?
Bet.
If that happens, I'll give you $100.
No, we don't even need to shake my hand.
No? Okay, exactly. It's not going to happen.
No, it's fine.
Rookies need time, unless they're, of course, a Matthews or a Crosby or somebody of that stature or a Rasmus Dahlin. Everybody knew that last year was a down year for the draft class, but I think that coming into their second year, they're still going to perform.
Do you think Dahlin's going to have a great year?
That's a tough question.
Got you.
I mean, I drafted him.
It's very possible he does. I will say it's very possible he does. I'm not saying the team's going to do great.
That team is interesting because they went out and got Carter Hutton to be their goaltender. I don't know how that's going to work out for Buffalo. I don't know what Botterill's doing up there, but I guess he really wanted Connor Sherry.
Yeah.
And he really wanted I don't know. That team's just interesting to me.
It is very possible they do.
I think Eichel's just assist.
I don't know what Jack's problem is. Like, he is a good player, but I feel you put him on a better team, he'd probably one of the top.
Yeah, put him on the
league.
Penguins. I'm just kidding. I definitely don't want Jack
No
Eichel on the Penguins.
No thanks.
So let's get into our Stanley Cup predictions. The way this is going to work, we're going to know Western Conference Finals, Eastern Conference Finals, Cup Finals, and our champion. Starting with the West Finals, who do you got, and why?
Okay. Well, my and why for all of these is just it's such a toss up throughout the league. I just kind of had to come up with a couple of teams. I'm like, yeah, they have a pretty good shot at doing it.
Okay.
But I said St. Louis in the first week.
That was you just throw us all off for that. We had time to prepare these questions. I said Chicago in the first week. They're probably not even going to win like 20 games
they're
this
not
year.
going to make the playoffs. But I'm going to stick with St. Louis still.
Okay.
And I'm going to say they're going to beat Winnipeg.
In which one of those teams is a wild card?
Yeah.
Because for those two teams to make the West Finals, one of them would have to be a wild card.
Probably St. Louis.
Okay. All right. I'll let it slide.
I know. I was looking at that whenever I was putting the teams together, but I was just like, just going to roll with this.
Interesting. I do have one of the same teams as you.
Probably Winnipeg.
I have Winnipeg.
It's
but
hard
I
to
also have the Los Angeles Kings in the finals.
It was really hard for me not to say Winnipeg, but then I just kind of went back through. I was like, you know what? I'm going to stick with St. Louis just because, like, the NHL recently has been about teams getting over the hump. Washington did it. Like, not only got over the hump of the second round, but got over the hump of Stanley Cup championship.
You don't think Winnipeg's a get over the hump team?
Some team had to have their hump year. It's going to be St. Louis, I think. That's all.
Okay.
Because St. Louis is a team that's been making the playoffs year after year.
Very true. Is Mike Yeo still there, or is it?
I thought he was
Mike Yeo's in
Minnesota.
Never mind, he's in Minnesota.
But like the Penguins, their hump was always losing the playoffs, and then go back to back. Like it's the NHL is a league of getting over humps. It's St. Louis's turn. I feel like almost.
Okay, I can understand that. I picked the Kings.
Oh, I love you
for the simple.
But go ahead.
I picked the Kings for the simple reason you saw they were the closest team to Vegas other than the Capitals last year in the playoffs. They lost by 1 goal, and they were the only team that really shut down Vegas's offense from start to finish in the Western Conference. And I think the problem that they had is they couldn't score goals. I think this year, when they add somebody like Ilya Kovalchuk, it'll open it up not only for him. He's not going to be the only guy that goes out there and improves the offensive scoring. He's going to have so much attention on him as a goal scorer. He's going to open up space for the Tyler Toffoli's to possibly get over their hump. Mm-hmm. See, somebody getting over the hump. To get over their hump, put up more points. I don't know if Jeff Carter has anything left in him. If he does, I think he can get over the hump. I think he still has – I feel like he still has goal-scoring ability. And I feel like that's something that he's going to get over the hump. And I feel like the Los Angeles Kings are finally just going to succeed in the playoffs again because it's been a while since they've been able to get to the playoffs and succeed. And I also think Jonathan Quick showed last year that he's still the top, if not top 5 premier goalies in this league. I think he's better than Fleury, and I think It's just Fleury had a better cast around him with Vegas last year than Quick had with LA. Otherwise, that series would have gone completely different.
I mean, Jonathan Quick at 32 is still one of the most athletic goalies of recent memory, too. Like, he can still sprawl all over the place and make the phenomenal saves that you wouldn't see coming. And
Exactly. He makes it look a little bit more difficult than it should be, but at the same time, he makes the save, so what's it matter?
very Dominic Hasek-esque, I would say.
Yes, very Dominic Hasek. That's very good assumption there. That's not an assumption.
But-
And who do you have in the Eastern Conference? Because we're talking a little too much about the West.
Okay, so as a fan, I'm saying the Penguins.
Fair.
But as in like a quote-unquote analyst, Tampa Bay over Toronto.
Did you just say analyst?
I was trying to say analyst.
Analyst?
I was trying to
Okay.
read it.
You
like,
said
I
Tampa
haven't
Bay
written-
over Toronto in
Yeah.
the second round.
again.
Or no, or are
it
you
would
saying
be a wild card thing again, probably.
Oh, wow!
Probably.
You're
I
really
understood that I realized after I typed it, I was like, oh wait, that really wouldn't
Makes-
work out.
yeah,
but I'm
no.
gonna roll with it. Because I could see Tampa Bay being a wild card team somehow this year, because
some
Toronto.
injury.
Yeah, and I just feel like, and because Vasilevsky is only still not, I think, fully proven to be a stud of a goalie. He's a good goalie, but I feel like he still has to get over his hump of being, here's me being the top guy here. And I just feel like Toronto might just steamroll over everyone this year too.
It certainly seems that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I have Toronto in the Eastern Conference Finals just because I think their offense was dangerous last year. Then they add John Tavares. Eventually, William Nylander will join that team. It's scary to think about. And Freddie Anderson showed last year that, hey, I'm not a guy to be messed with. I can play those big games. I can be that shutdown goaltender. And their defense is something that's going to come along. Their defense has not been amazing, but their defense is something that will come along. So I think Toronto will make the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think they get over the hump and make the finals yet,
Okay.
because I think the Pittsburgh Penguins will.
I like it.
Because trying not to be biased here, you look at the Penguins team, what were they missing last year to beat Washington? They went 6 games when they had no business being 6 games deep with the Washington Capitals last year. So they obviously have something going for them.
Right.
What did they add? They added Jack Johnson,
Defense.
who can stand up for people, actually. So they have both him and Alexiak that are pretty big guys that can actually go up against the brawn of the Capitals, but still have the puck-moving abilities that we need to have as a Penguins team. And then you also looked that they added Matt Cullen. You look that they have a solid Derek Brassard,
depth
and all of a sudden you have a depth.
piece and
You
locker
have
room guy.
6 centers.
That is
6.
still unreal. You have that many
You have
centers.
6 centers, and the top 4 are Crosby, Malkin, Brassard, Cullen, or Sheehan. Those are their top 5. That's a ridiculous amount of depth at center. I think with that, plus you look at the fact that Phil Kessel is probably going to have another great season. You look at the fact that Patrick Hornqvist always has a great season. And you look at the fact that I think Jake Gensel is going to have a breakout season as far as the league is concerned. The league is, if they have not already taken notice of Jake Gensel, they will take notice.
I also forgot to mention at the very beginning of the show that happy birthday, Phil Kessel. We're in the last 2 minutes. That's how I wanted to open it, was by giving a birthday shout out to Phil.
Well, you also tweeted at him to listen to our show. I highly doubt that Phil is listening to the show right now.
It's okay. Birthday shout out to Phil Kessel and roommate James Scales.
That is right. It is James' birthday,
James'
even
birthday.
though he celebrated it last Saturday or Friday.
We don't need to worry about that.
So we have the finals. You, if I remember correctly, have
St. Louis
and
over Tampa.
St. Louis over Tampa.
Just for the hump.
Just
That's really my only reason.
for the hump. That is the quote of the day. Apparently, is getting over the hump, and I think we're using that a little too much because I think the people that listen to this are probably going to be taking. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I have the Penguins. I honestly
like it.
think they do 3 and 4. I think they beat the Kings because I think, I really think their scoring is just too much for the Kings.
First of all, an L.A. Pittsburgh final.
Okay. Yeah.
You
I
see me.
get it,
You
you're
would see me
excited.
not care about the finals for once.
That's not a good thing.
Hey. We won back to back. I can take 2 years off.
No, you can't.
All right, fine. Yell at me.
No, you can't. If you're not going to be a Penguins fan, we're going to have to replace you, and that's not good because then it'll just be me and Jordan.
Let's say we have Jordan in this show, and you're going to talk about not being a Penguin fan? All right.
Yeah, that's very true. But that is going to do it for this week's 3PT. That's episode 3 of 3PT for season 2. We'll be back next week with some more Penguins talk, and we'll have some actual games to discuss. we'll have 2 games to discuss because, again, we have a Thursday night game, a Saturday night game, and then another 4-day break, just how we started last year. But we'll be back here on 3PT. Thank you guys for listening on WPPJradio.com.
See you soon, Jordan.